the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Good, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm going to say what I'm about to say, and I can almost guarantee that you're going to laugh in agreement with it. And I think that there's this paradox in the first responder culture that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's where you can handle almost anything until you can't handle that one thing.
You're absolutely right. And it's when that one thing comes up, you're just like, why can't I handle this? I should be able to handle this. And then we become our own worst enemies on that negative self-talk of why I'm not handling that, whatever it may be.
It's really interesting because you manage chaos and trauma and pressure and responsibility with precision even. And there's one issue that you just keep circling around or avoiding or postponing. And it feels like the more capable that you are everywhere else, the easier that it becomes to be able to ignore the one place that you feel stuck.
And that's something that, like, looking from the growing up in a PD and seeing, like I can think of calls for service holding, and this is a great example of this. Is you'll go handle those traffic collisions, you'll go handle those burglary reports, domestics, whatever it may be. You're going and handling those, but then you have a child crime pop up, and you're like, nope, I'm busy on this, and you start avoiding that as much as possible so someone else gets sent to that call.
The psychological concept here is called selective avoidance loop, and my personality type will not allow for this. So I'll right off the bat tell you what my strategy is. That one thing that I don't want to do, there could be 500 other things that I could easily do, but I will on purpose do that one thing that I don't want to do before I do anything else. And the main reason for that is because when you have this type of loop, it's going to occur usually when a person can successfully manage other types of stressors. And it's really interesting because this continues to happen. And the more and more that you avoid it, the more and more that type of avoidance is going to continue to exist in your life with the things that you don't want to take action on. And so by allowing yourself strategies to be able to make it to where you don't get caught up in that loop, you're not only doing it for that one thing that you've been avoiding, but you're going to be doing it for all the other times that this might happen in the future.
Yeah, when you lean into it more and go out and actually expose yourself and become the expert in that, is instead of, shying away from it, you lean into it to be able to become that person that handles those all the time, to where something else will always arise, but you do the same thing with each individual circumstance, to where you're now the expert in that, to where you don't have that hindrance being put upon yourself to say, yeah, I can't handle this anymore.
And as a first responder, I think that this loop is fueled by a few things. The first is that you're very high functioning under pressure, usually. You have a fear of emotional exposure. You don't want people to know about this. You have this belief that I should be able to handle this. And of course, you're prioritizing other people above yourself.
Yeah, and I think the perfect example is what I gave of, you can go out and handle any call for service, but when it comes to a kitty crime type case, you avoid it like fire because either you're worried about your emotional response, or you're worried that you're going to mess that up. And in all reality is, if you treat that case like you would any other case and investigate it thoroughly and set yourself up to be able to handle that dynamic, it's not a worry that you should ever have.
Yeah, avoidance isn't weakness. On some level, it's actually primal and it's self-protection. But I think that it can get to a place to where it's outlived its usefulness.
Yeah, I think if in avoiding things over time, I think it starts hindering us on a bigger scale. And there's certain instances where, okay, I can see where I'm avoiding it right now. And it comes down to that self-recognition of, why am I truly avoiding this instead of just embracing it?
And there are signs, I think, that we can all use to be able to see whether or not we are actually avoiding that one thing. And the first is that you stay busy so that you stay distracted. And productivity can often replace processing.
Yeah, and I think the more we add onto our plates, and then it starts coming down to the rationalization of, well, I was busy. I took all these reports. I did this, but you avoided that one that would have taken you the whole night to do or the whole day to do, because it's a lot more in depth and it's a lot more work to be able to analyze and investigate it further.
You might also tell yourself that it's not a big deal, and that minimization keeps discomfort at bay, but it also keeps it unresolved. In my mind, for some reason, a text message of "I'm fine" is coming up, and that might be something that's a go-to for a lot of people.
Yeah, we start putting, these band-aids on arterial bleeds per se, and it's not doing us any favors by responding in those ways, by not embracing the suck.
Something else that I see is how it shows up indirectly, and it could be things like irritability or sleep issues, anxiety, even emotional distance, especially to the people at your home.
Yeah, and when we start having that, because it's an internal battle that you're continuing to have with yourself over the exposure, because the more and more you avoid it, I guarantee the more and more you're going to be presented with opportunities to make that change, to start addressing those issues. And if you don't lean into it, you're going to start having that anxiety associated to it.
There are some ways to address it in like a super nonchalant and safe way. And for myself, something that I would absolutely incorporate, and this is going to sound silly, but it would be some form of a reward system, because we need to retrain our minds to be able to not shy away from it, but to be able to go hard at it anytime that we can. And you could name the thing without solving it. I think that clarity begins with acknowledgement and not necessarily action. So let's say for me, let's say the thing was anxiety. I'm getting anxious. And so I would need to admit, like, oh shit, like all these, every time that I know that thing is coming up, that thing is actually my feeling of anxiety. And when I know what it is, then I can allow myself to be able to sit with that. And it's very interesting because there are so many things that we could do nowadays for experiencing something like anxiety. I recently read a study showcasing that eating sour candies like warheads during time of anxiety actually nulls the feeling of anxiety. So first and foremost, being able to just say what it is and not necessarily thinking that you need to solve things now.
And that's so interesting to really think about. One, like as soon as you said eating a sour candy can null the feelings and emotions associated to anxiety, like I could definitely see that. And finding those practices that work for you and to be able to experience those, to learn different tools and techniques out of your normal comfort zone to be able to address these issues is super important.
I think that a lot of the times too, we build things up in our mind to where that thing starts to become a lot bigger in our mind than it is in actuality. Because how many times have we actually carried out what needed to be done for the thing, and then we're like, shit, I really waited that long. I should have done that so much sooner.
Yeah, and I think that's a normal response with a lot of stuff, that where we have this anxiousness, that anxiety associated to whatever it may be, and our minds work at such a level to where it's showing us that fight or flight response, and instead of leaning into it, instead of doing that, you're like, well, that was actually very stupid. Why was I even worked up over that?
Yeah, so lower the stakes. You don't have to fix everything. You literally just have to start. And I think too, choosing the right container is really important. And what I mean by that is that you can do things like peer support, coaching, therapy, faith-based guidance, if that's something that matters to you. But I think choosing the right container is also really important.
Yeah, I think being able to find what works for you, to be able to get yourself out of that comfort zone and to actually broaden your horizons, whatever it may be, because that's one thing that I think we all fail and we've talked about before, is we're not expanding ourselves on a regular basis.
Work with your body first. And what I mean by that is regulation creates a lot of access to insight, and that kind of calm opens a lot of doors to things that we might not have actualized if we hadn't given ourselves that space to be able to.
Yeah, being able to find and being compassionate with ourselves, of making it okay to feel uncomfortable, but to diagnose that problem for ourselves and to address it, is takes a lot of work, but we can impact that change more than anybody else.
I think handling everything except for that one thing doesn't make you weak. It basically makes you human. I think that we've all been guilty of that before, but that one avoided issue often holds the key to a lot of relief and clarity and reconnection everywhere else. And I think that's why it's so important for us to be able to talk about this and then to do the work when we need to. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.